This video is kindly sponsored by IKKYU Tea. More on them later. Seasonal shifts are the perfect opportunity for practicing some self-care habits. And for me, autumn especially makes for a great time to get a little quiet, release and let go, reset, recenter, and make some extra time for self-care. I have a little ritual that I like to do whenever the seasons change, and today I want to share with you my autumn ritual, which has something to do with these, while I talk about my favorite self-care habits for fall. So as always, these things don't require anything specific that you have to buy, so anyone can do them. Feel free to get cozy, grab yourself a nice cup of coffee or tea so we can begin. My autumn tradition is making stoofperen, stewed pears. These are quite common here in the Netherlands. I remember looking forward to my mom making them every year when I was a kid, when the fall started, and now I make them myself. They make the house smell incredible, so to me, nothing says coziness quite as well as the smell of stoofperen on the stove. The first self-care habit I will start getting back into more when the autumn starts is movement. I don't know about you, but summertime is the season when I'm exercising the least. I don't do well in hot weather, and when it gets really warm, I tend to move my body as less as possible. But autumn is the perfect time to get back into the daily habit of just moving your body because the temperature drops. It's usually not too warm, not too cold. So this is when I get out of my summer hibernation and focus more on getting my movement in. For me, moving my body is not just good for physical health, it really helps with my mental health as well. I always feel more energized and more cheerful after moving my body, and I think the key here is to set doable goals for yourself. Not this big overwhelming goal that you will never be able to stick to, but something that you feel like you will be able to do long term, and preferably also something that you enjoy doing. For me, yoga is a great one. I can adjust the intensity of it from a relaxing stretching session to a powerful workout depending on my mood and my energy levels. Or I do a dance class or Pilates class on YouTube. But of course, since autumn can be so beautiful, going for walks or going for a run is also highly recommended. And this can be a great little autumn guilty pleasure to wake up early in the morning, have a light breakfast, go out for a nice morning autumn walk, and then go back to bed for a few hours. When I think of autumn, I think of coziness, and I immediately start to feel happier. I love being able to wear big comfy sweaters or curl up underneath a blanket on the couch with a good book, lighting a candle, drinking a warm beverage, just warming your body from the inside out and keeping your hands warm on the mug. Coziness just gets an extra layer in the fall, and I think this is the perfect time for some relaxational self-care habits. And the first thing I think of when it comes to autumn coziness is tea. If you've been around here longer, you know how much I love tea, especially green tea. So I'm very excited that this video is kindly sponsored by my friends over at IKKYU Tea. They have the best Japanese green tea I have ever had. By far, no competition, and this time they sent me some more really delicious ones to try. The green teas from IKKYU have such a high quality, so much depth of flavor, a really beautiful deep green color. I love drinking these in the morning, just slowly waking up, or taking a nice tea break in the afternoon for some extra relaxation and a nice gentle energy boost. This time I got a white tea, a sencha, a wonderful ceremonial matcha, and another low caffeine organic green tea. Even if you don't know the first thing about Japanese green tea, they all come with information about how to prepare them, and they even have a luxurious matcha gift box now for anyone who wants to get started with matcha. It comes with everything you need: a matcha bowl, a whisk holder, bamboo scoop, and an organic matcha, which is so nice, really soft, creamy, and rich, one of my favorites. So this could perhaps make for a really nice gift to give for the holiday season, or of course for yourself. This is how I make my matcha lattes. A good scoop of matcha, about 50 milliliters of water at 80 degrees, whisk it in a W shape until it's foamy, and then pour into a heated mug. Add warm frothy oat milk, and a sweetener is optional. Enjoy! If you want to try them out for yourself, you can get them with 15% off if you use my link and discount code in the description box. I highly recommend checking them out. It is so nice. Big thanks to IKKYU for their support. Let's get back to the video. One of the reasons I love autumn so much is that the symbolism really resonates with me. Autumn is the season for letting go of what no longer is serving us, understanding that change will always happen whether we want it to or not, accepting that in the end nothing is permanent and everything will change, and that letting go and embracing change will eventually lead to new growth and new life. The concept of change and impermanence isn't always easy for me. I don't want things to leave or to change, but as much as it scares me, it's also just as comforting and reassuring. Watching the leaves change color and then drop to the ground, leaving the trees dormant in the winter, only to be kind of reborn in the spring and get all new, fresh green leaves. It's very comforting to me. So this makes autumn the perfect time for doing some inner self-care through reflection. Just thinking about some things that you might want to let go of, or things that you want to change, or accept that things have changed, things that maybe are no longer serving you, that you don't want to bring with you into next year. This could be done through journaling. If you journal, I personally prefer to just think about these things and meditate on it a little. Whatever works for you. Building on that, I also think that autumn can be a wonderful time to do some decluttering, letting go of that which no longer holds value for you. This can be material things, decluttering some items in your home that maybe you've been thinking about for a while but haven't been able to declutter. Some fantasy self items or emotional clutter that secretly you would like to let go of. Maybe there are certain areas in your home that you haven't been able to get to, like storage areas or your wardrobe or arts and craft supplies, kitchen cupboards, whatever it is, to just go through it, take a day or two, however long it takes, to decide which of these you want to keep with you going forward. But it could also be non-material things. For example, this could be the time to decide to let go of a grudge that you're holding against someone else if you're still angry about something that they did, or perhaps a regret towards yourself. Maybe this could be the time to say goodbye to a certain hobby or an interest that you've had for a while but you simply don't enjoy anymore. To kind of shed your leaves and make room for new, fresh green leaves after a while. Something else I like to pay a little bit more attention to this time of year is skincare and moisturizing and staying hydrated. I have dry skin and it can be especially dry during the fall and the winter, especially if you have the heaters on, which fortunately we haven't had to do yet, but it's only a matter of time. And also with the cold wind blowing and things like that, my skin can get kind of dry and itchy even during this season, so I like to take extra good care. So some things that I do to help keep my skin moisturized and hydrated. The first is making sure that I'm not over cleansing, so I only use a really gentle cleanser in the evenings after taking off my makeup. But in the morning, I only wash my face with water because using too much soap or cleansers can really dry out your skin. The second is making sure I'm not showering too often, too long, or too hot, which is kind of a challenge for me because I love taking showers, especially this time of year, just feeling the nice warm water on your skin, but I try not to overdo it. And of course, using a nice moisturizer. This can just be the moisturizer that you have been using, but the key here is a little trick that I like to do to leave my skin slightly damp before applying the moisturizer. So instead of drying off my skin completely, I leave it slightly damp so that the moisturizer can use that moisture to kind of lock it in and hydrate it even more. This is a little trick, but I feel like this really works. And of course, drinking lots of water. During the colder months, I have actually been known to just drink hot water, just from the water kettle, or tea, of course, also is great. When the seasons change and the weather gets colder, I often find myself just craving heavier, richer foods. I crave sugary things and oily things and things to kind of warm up my body with. And so what I try to do is cook a lot of these like more satisfying meals, but that are still healthy. I start making lots of soups and stews, including lots of vegetables. I like to include things like sweet potato, pumpkins, zucchini, mushrooms, carrots, spinach, also things like quinoa, beans, legumes, making it just rich in nutrients, as well as comforting to eat. Cooking in general is something that I really like to do this time of year. I feel like it's a nice creative and mindful activity after a long work day, and I just feel like it's very comforting. And of course, everything is good in moderation, so if you happen to feel like baking some pastries or some autumn goodies that make your house smell amazing, then of course that's perfectly fine too. Speaking of which, it's starting to smell really, really good in here now. There's something about autumn that makes it the perfect moment to stand still and practice gratitude. So something I like to do a bit more during this season is just to take a moment to appreciate all that I have instead of wishing for things I don't. Obviously, this goes for stuff, but most of all, things like health, love, relationships, and friends and family, safety, freedom, all things that are quite easy to take for granted when you're just going through your busy days, but are actually not things to take for granted at all. You can choose how you want to practice gratitude. I personally have tried journaling many times in many different ways, but it's just not for me. Maybe you happen to like it. I personally like to just think about it or meditate on it or just have little moments of the day, for example, when I'm in bed before I'm going to sleep, to just appreciate all the many wonderful things in my life. I find that this also helps with dealing with adversity, being more resilient, and just being more content, obviously, in life. Another one of my favorite self-care activities to do whenever the seasons change, I love this especially in the spring and in the autumn, to take myself out on a date. So whether that is going to a beautiful park, or I like to go to a cafe and read my book, have a nice lunch or breakfast. Maybe you want to go to a museum or something else that you find interesting. Of course, I also like going out with others, especially, for example, when it comes to parks or nature. I prefer not to go alone because I don't always feel safe going alone, unfortunately. But there is just something nice about going out with yourself, by yourself, not having to take anyone else into consideration, doing whatever you want to do at that time. And also it shows that we don't necessarily need others to show us a good time. We can be proactive and just prioritize having a fun afternoon with ourselves. If there is one thing that I associate with unwinding, unplugging, relaxing, taking care of myself, it's reading. I always read a lot, but I never read as much as I do in autumn. It is the perfect season for reading. I actually just filmed a video for my patrons where I do a little book review, book haul of all the books that I've been reading and loving recently. I think there are about 10 in that video. So feel free to check it out on patreon.com/simplehappyzen. It's also just a great way to support the channel. And you will also get access to, I think, over 65 videos that are already up right now and a few new ones every month. Honestly, these smell so good right now. You do want to be careful with this because it can sting your clothes really bad. And they are still pretty hot because they're just out of the pan, but let me just try a little piece. If you want to make these yourself, you need a special kind of pears. Not your usual pears, you need pears that are really hard still. In Dutch, we call them Giese Wildeman, which probably you won't be able to find where you live, unless you live in the Netherlands. But look at your local grocer if they have some kind of pear that you can stew. And if they don't, I imagine that you could use apples for this as well. Oh, it's so hot still. This is fall in a bowl. It's fall coziness. Makes me feel really happy. I don't need an excuse for a pajama day because I basically live in my pajamas, but Every once in a while, in autumn or in the winter too, it can be so nice to hold a special pajama day. This is something that I really recommend. I love this so much. Maybe you could look in your calendar and carve out a whole day for yourself somewhere this month where you can hold a special pajama day where you can just watch movies, read books, play video games if you like video games. You could take naps. You can invite others to join you on your special, cozy, relaxing pajama day, or do it with yourself. But the whole point is just to have a super chill fall day. I think the beauty of holding a special pajama day is just that it signifies to yourself that today is just going to be slow, restful, peaceful. You don't have to do anything productive like cleaning or working when you're in your pajamas. It's basically like the opposite of wearing a suit, and it can just be all about relaxation and resting. These are just some ideas of self-care habits that I like to do this season in the autumn. Maybe you could share yours in the comment section down below, and we could share some tips and ideas for just cozy self-care activities. Don't forget to check out IKKYU and try their amazing green teas with 15% off. If you do, let me know in the comments which ones you ordered, because I'm very curious to know. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.